Right, we're back. Episode 25. Joke's on you. We're still alive. Of the Vinyl Collective. Your weekly journal of the hip hop and R&B landscape. I'm your host, Topper.
I'm your co-host, John. How many weeks have you been waiting to use that one? That's what I want to know.
Not too long. Not as long as you
Mm,
probably think. It's probably a
I
few
don't
weeks.
know.
I'm not gonna lie. Probably a few
It
weeks. Like
feels
before we
well
after episode
rehearsed.
21. I mean, it's a popular song. I made the tweet also when we were talking about the artist spotlight, which we'll get into in a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's yes, it's not the
It's
biggest thing I've held on
nice
to.
little ones you want to sprinkle on. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it. I get it.
but yeah. I mean, I know everyone's just thinking, okay, what's the anecdote today? I actually don't have much of an anecdote today, but I will comment on something. We'll just kind of get straight into it because it's not gonna be that too long today. But I think I made a tweet, right? Like no joke, it must have been like last Thursday or last Friday, and I said, I think I've spoken to you about it before as well. Like I've fallen out of love with music videos because you know when you
Mm.
like when you're younger, like music videos is kind of how you got music, right? Because
Yeah,
it's not
it's your
like yeah,
like access to it, right?
yeah, exactly. So obviously back then it's like, for example, like when Michael Jackson dropped the Thriller video, apparently that's like a huge moment because that was like the release of the song. It was with the music
Mm.
video, and that's how you kind of got it. So yeah, back then music videos had a lot of importance. But right now, like especially nowadays, music videos is purely just for the aesthetic. So like if you
Yeah,
just enjoy the artist, you'll
yeah,
listen to the music, like you'll watch the music video and stuff like that. But it's not like a barrier to listen to the music. So for me, it's like there's plenty of albums that I genuinely enjoy, but it's like I've just never watched the music videos because it's more just like extra study. Like you want to like see how the person thought of the song visually, but I don't really care for that. I think it's fine to come to your own conclusions.
yeah. I get you. I think
Yeah.
there are a few artists where I'm like, I know they've been working on the music video for a while. Like FK Twigs, I know a lot of her music videos were like quite poignant, so I'm gonna go back and watch them. But yeah, I get you. It's not
Yeah.
it
So
feels like
yeah,
a bit of an afterthought with some artists.
exactly, and that's why I don't give a fuck about a lot of them. But
Yeah.
as we saw, I think it was literally like 3 days ago, right? So someone's kind of outside of the genre, well, kind of in the genres that we look at. Lil Nas X dropped the music video for a song that he's been teasing since about like last summer called Montero, which is a
Yeah.
play on
Yeah.
his actual name, right? And yeah, before I say anything in it, because I don't like to give my opinion, so I was like, yeah, I agree. Like, I just want to see what you think generally. So, what do you think? Have you seen the video?
I've seen clips, so I have not watched the whole video now.
Okay, so obviously, John, as you know, people who have followed this podcast for a while now will know that you are, a follower of Christ, right? And a lot of the imagery here can be seen as satanic, they say. So, what are your
Well,
thoughts on
brought up in that scenario anyway. Um, you're just defining me there. No. Like obviously I have that background, right?
it?
Um, it doesn't bother me too much. I see where the drama comes from.
Mm.
Um, but at the same time, you're gonna have to help me out here. What's the name of the comedian that we were showing videos of recently? The one, she did a funny sketch of like her sitting in, like lying in bed, and someone
Oh
came
gosh,
and
yeah.
like
Oh, I cannot remember her name. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to pick up. I'm trying to search up, but
that's
I
gonna
don't
annoy
know her
me.
name. But I'll pick it up later. Continue though. I know
There's
exactly what you're
anyway,
talking
there's
about.
a funny comedian that did a little talk about it, and she's a Christian, right? And she was like, yeah, just thought the whole thing was a bit ridiculous because it feels like the issue people have with it isn't necessarily about the video. It's also probably because the guy's gay, right? Like, which is
Mm.
why it's all like exacerbated. It's like, a gay musician is now doing like, all of this kind of like satanic hell imagery. Yeah, I don't know. Like, do what you want. I don't really listen to his music that much. It didn't personally offend me. Um,
China McClain. China McClain.
that's her. Check her out.
Yeah.
She's hilarious.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Like, so it's like, well, I think one thing that really surprised me, right, is that how, like, even though he didn't make any reference to like Christianity or the Bible or Christ or anything like that in the music video. So I've watched it. It's just interesting that people kind of came to those conclusions like straight off rip, like as if
Mm.
it's only applicable to Christianity because it definitely isn't. So just for context, people who haven't like seen the video, right? So essentially, obviously, no, don't get me wrong. There's definitely like themes that tie into the biblical narrative, like obviously like Garden Eden and stuff like that. It's in the video. So obviously, this guy, I guess he's born into like a earth like domain,
Mm.
and then he basically commits an act of sin. So basically, like kind of engaged in sexual acts of someone he's not meant to. The person's not like a man or woman. It's just some sort of like humanoid figure.
Yeah.
And obviously he's kind of like trialed in this like place that's meant to I guess it appears quite saintly, but you got like a lot of people like onlookers kind of judging, like kind of like medieval times, like, oh yeah, get him out, like whatever. And then he's like, fuck this. He descends all the way down to hell because he feels it's more accepted there. And then there's like this devil, like demonic figure, right? And he starts twerking on that guy, and then at the end he snaps like the devil's neck, or you can quote, and then he takes the horns of the devil and puts them on himself. And I thought, okay,
Doesn't
cool.
he like give a little? I heard he like gives a lap dance to him.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? So he
I
does
can
all
see why some people would be offended by that. Because they're like, I don't know. I think there's definitely like a big theme of like guilt and fear and stuff in religion, right? Like you're supposed to fear certain things.
Yes.
And I think
yeah,
that's probably where the upset has come from like the trivializing of like devil or of like sin and stuff like that. So I think that's probably why a lot of people are offended, right?
Yeah,
So
no.
like here you are just like doing like sexy dances on the devil. What's going on here? Like,
yeah, no, I get you, but I guess the way I kind of saw it, right, is that he's definitely he's drawing parallels with religion, but he's not saying, that's Christianity, that is the devil, because
no.
even again, right, who the fuck knows what the devil looks like? Who knows what like in heaven or hell looks like? These are all, again, for like back then someone said, oh, this is what the devil looks like, and someone said, that's fucking blasphemous, mate. But then we kind of agreed that the devil's red for whatever reason, has horns and all that stuff. That had to be agreed at some point in time, and maybe at that point in time someone thought, raw, what the fuck are we doing? This is going too far. And then eventually we realized, damn, it's not that these things are real, we just need some sort of like interpretation to work with. You know what I mean? It's like it's like a vision board in a sense. You're not saying this is it, right? We kind of spoke about last week when you're talking about the way artists paint. Like before, it was like to kind of like create identical copies, but now it's more like their perspective in their art, right? And I think that's exactly the same thing with some of these religious imageries, because none exists, right? So I think he drew parallels from that and kind of tied into the whole thing of so the song essentially is about like wanting to like have this relationship with someone, and it's not like done in the dark. He wants it to be open. And I think also no point trying to break down what he's trying to say here, because it's not a song review, but I think the music video tying into what he's saying, it kind of makes sense for one. And I don't think it's I mean, where are we going to draw the line, right? So is it wrong to kind of take, I guess, religious themes and put it into something that's not religious? Are we not allowed to do that? That's the question. I don't know, right? But I mean, what is the line, right? Because a lot of things, even like Kendrick Lamar's "Damn," that's very inspired by religion. So what is the line, right? Is it fine when it's good? Because he was doing humble in a church.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is the line, right? So is it only when it's like talking about heavenly stuff? Is it how vivid are the images allowed to be? So I think when you get into that type of like discussion, it can get really messy. But I actually thought the video was kind of fire. Like I think just the actual no pun intended, sorry. I think the actual just like the visuals are actually quite sick. But obviously I think the video is kind of designed. Lil Nas X is a troll,
and the shoes and everything, right?
Yeah, I think he's obviously doing it to get some sort of.
He's trying to stay relevant.
I mean, you said it the shadier way, innit?
But, well, it's true.
I mean, he's been relevant. He's still very relevant, my guy. I mean, have you seen his monthly listeners? It's bloody crazy.
Oh, it's big. Yeah. No, but I'm saying he's trying to. No, whatever.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I know.
I said what I said.
Yeah, he said what he said, didn't it? But sorry, go on.
Actually, I was just going to move on quickly. Another thing that's come up recently, I know there've been some Facebook posts and stuff just about like songwriters wanting more. I don't know if you've seen this. There've been quite a few posts in that about songwriters, specifically for the stars, like for huge artists, and artists trying to take some of the cut for the songwriting as well.
Okay.
And this kind of phenomena of like musicians who don't write their own songs but getting songwriting credits on it just because it's their song. I don't know how you feel about that.
Wait, say that again.
So a lot of songwriters
Mm-hmm.
are annoyed that the artists themselves are putting themselves as credited on it,
Ah,
and are
right,
therefore
right.
taking
Okay.
wanting some of the financial credit from it.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
which I think a lot of
Mm.
artists, are kind of
Okay. Okay. So, you go think of two examples, right? Or two instances, rather.
mm,
Because funny, I was actually talking to Ore about this just before this show. So, because I didn't know the Beyonce song "Miss You" was written by Frank Ocean. Like completely written by Frank Ocean. Yeah, I
mm,
didn't know that. So obviously, I think so. You want an instance where it's like the whole song is literally just like you lift and shift, right? The person's written a song, all you've done is like sung over it. I think in that case, I get it because you didn't write that shit, and obviously, I guess I don't know the financial, I guess, kind of workings behind if someone else is credited. Like, for example, if it's two people, does that get split 50-50? I don't know. If that's the case, I kind of get why that's kind of bullshit because if you didn't write anything. But then you have another example where it's like, okay, you gave me the, I guess, the base element of the song, and then I kind of added some of my own lyrics or interpretations from that. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
then that is legit. Even if it's quite small, it's still a legitimate songwriting credit, you know. So
Mm.
and obviously
I think
you
it
can't.
just has
Yeah,
to
go
be
on.
like you just have to work out a better deal for songwriters, right? Because a lot of them are
Yeah.
obviously saying, I've written for all these big artists. Like, I think some examples are like Lewis Capaldi,
Mm,
etc. Right? In my head, I was like, Lewis Capaldi, he's a guitarist as well. He writes all his songs. Apparently
mm.
not. Um, but yeah, I think it just has to be like a better contract written out for them. So if you're getting like £100, £200 for a song, and the
Mm.
song blows, you fucked it, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, I guess can you get royalties for a song? Like if you've written a song, I think you can. I think you can, right?
You must
But
be able
then,
to.
yeah, because I'm pretty sure people like Babyface have like crazy like royalties for songs they've
Yeah,
written,
yeah.
or like Dark Child or whatever. But so I guess maybe that's the way. I guess it's hard, right? Because let's say it's an up and coming artist, and you can't say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna take 15%," and you don't know if that guy's even gonna blow or not. That's not money in your hand right now. So I kind
Mm.
of get that. Um, but then, or okay, forget the legal like workings behind that because I don't actually know, so I can't really comment on that. But just in terms of let's just talk about it in terms of like a moral standpoint, right? Because it's just more interesting. I think morally, it is kind of fucked up because it's like, okay, you actually didn't write this. Like for example, when Drake kind of took the whole Rico kind of verse,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
okay, that is kind of fucked up, right? But yeah. So I think on that standpoint, I wouldn't be happy with it. To be fair, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there just needs to be greater, I don't know, greater like visibility of songwriters because a lot of artists themselves start out like that. That you're
Mm,
like, oh, I first had the EP in 2012, and they're like, yeah, I was working behind the scenes for like 5 years writing songs for so and so. Um,
mm,
so I think, yeah, songwriting probably does need to have a greater spotlight, find that later, spotlight thrown
mm,
on it.
mm.
Um, yeah, just so that like artists, particularly popular ones, aren't just kind of taking the credit, and these guys are just like behind the scenes working their asses off, like the little hamsters in the wheels, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
because
I get,
because
yeah, man.
because it does seem like a bit of an imbalance, right? Because if you're a small time artist, the odds are that you're probably writing your own stuff, or you're yeah, you're probably writing your own stuff, right? But then once you blow up, you've actually got the
Yeah.
money to invest in yeah, songwriters. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I
just
mean,
think it
people.
needs to be
I
greater
mean,
visibility.
people only care about the front man for any product, right? So when you buy bloody steak from Tesco, you're not thinking of the farmers who killed the cow and chopped it up. You don't give a fuck about that really, even though they're a very crucial part to the
Mm.
process. I mean, that's just how it is, isn't it? Like, if I like a song, I'm not thinking, who wrote this? I'm just thinking, oh, it's a good song. Do you know what I mean? And that's kind of where it starts and stops
Yeah.
for me, probably majority of people.
Very. Go on.
No, I mean, like, yeah.
I was
So
going to say a very relevant example is something that me and Tope's kind of got me into watching Hell's Kitchen, right? Relevant
yeah,
example would be, you know, like Dinner by Heston Blumenthal, or like Such and Such by Gordon Ramsay. Go to the restaurant. Gordon Ramsay's not there in the kitchen. You don't know what the head chef's name is, and you're getting the food, and you're like, oh fuck, Gordon Ramsay's a great chef.
Yeah, you know what? That's fair. That's actually fair. Exactly. So you're thinking, oh yeah, thanks to the chef that actually fucking made the food when he's off in like bloody LA living his best life. Do you know what I mean? So no, that's it. It's just how the human brain works, and I think the key kind of takeaway is like we just kind of we kind of hope they get paid, or that's the goal, right? Just to make sure they get paid. But in terms of visibility, I mean, if someone writes for Beyonce, I'm not gonna be like, oh, like, you know, you just gotta take that L with it. Take the pride that you wrote for Beyonce. You don't need all that, like, you know, you're not the product you're not the sellable product. And if you were, you would be the artist, right? And then, you know, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So I think it's just more about getting paid, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
since we mentioned Spotlight, it's probably
wait, I got one more.
Go on.
Just a small one. So your boy Nux, you know, he's out here doing another feature. He's been around. He's been quite busy recently, but he's out here with a song with DC. DC, someone who, I don't know, for the given amount of time he's been around, he's pretty quiet, to be honest. But obviously, yeah, he teamed up with Nux for their new song. I don't know why the name is eluding me now, but yeah.
I saw we were both listening to it today, weren't we? The album.
Did you? Oh, did you see it?
I was. Yeah, I was. Top there, keep tabs. You forget this.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Bobby and Rowdy, that's it. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't think I've heard the single. I've just heard a few songs off the album I started listening to earlier.
Okay.
So I wouldn't need to get back to it.
Okay.
But yeah, what was your impression? I liked the beats on the first few songs I heard from DC though.
I haven't heard the album yet. I've only heard the single. So we're kind of opposites, right? So I haven't listened to the album yet. I know it's a pretty short album, so I was gonna get around to it and probably speak about it on our next episode. So you know what? Let's put a pin in this. We'll talk about it on our next episode, because I know we'll be speaking to HannahV quite shortly. So artist spotlight, here, take us away, Eryn.
We have great artist Eryn Allen Kane, who I didn't realize actually a few days, you know, last week or whenever it was, we decided we'd do her. She had like a good kind of like friendship relationship with Prince. Wasn't aware of that.
Wasn't aware of that either.
And like they went through a period. So basically, the story goes back to like, what was it, 2013 or something. And she had released, you know, a song. It's not on Spotify, but I think she'd released like her first single after a period of like songwriting. And just out of the blue, like Prince's management team like called her up. She's like, "What?" And anyway, she'd already like planned a trip home, because she'd obviously moved to Chicago to study. She's from Detroit. And she decided not to cancel a trip home for Thanksgiving. So she was like, yeah, sorry, Prince, can't make it.
Crazy.
Wild. Anyway, 2 years later, he contacts her again, picks the phone up this time. And apparently, they went through a period of time just like calling each other most days, just talking about music and like artists that they enjoy. And, like,
do you know what's funny?
That is the story.
I feel like all the singers that I enjoy have a crazy like Prince story. So Leanne LaHave is like, yeah, Prince came to my flat in London. That's one. Lizzo worked with Prince on a couple of his albums as well. It's like, and obviously got Eryn and Kane. It's like, I feel like Prince has got his ear to the streets, or his like management on A&R has got his ears like really close to the streets. Because to pick up someone like Eryn and Kane in like 2013, that's a crazy find. That is a crazy find. So yeah, I mean. Yeah. I mean, I kind of get why he likes her, right? Because when I hear her music, right, the first thing I'm like, this is like a Motown singer stuck in like a millennial person's body, right? Like she seems like an old soul that's like been, reincarnated or something like that. Do you know what I mean? I kind of get that vibe from her. I mean, and if you don't know who Eryn Allen Kane is, she's also appeared on a couple of songs that you may know. So Chance the Rapper's Finish Line / Drown on Colouring Book, and also No Name's Reality Check on Telephone. So obviously massive songs in it, but the Chicago natives of sorts. I guess, were you a fan of her, one of these features back then? But this is both in 2016.
100%. I wasn't even. It didn't twig like who it was, because I remember hearing her music like a little bit after that time. I think, when did I first hear her? Probably around that time, right? I went back and listened to her first EP. But yeah, no, I didn't really click when I heard her on those features. Before you forget, actually, she's on. I know Vic Mensa just dropped a new project, and she's on that. Yet to hear it, but yeah, interesting. Especially like we've talked about the Chicago scene. You know, obviously a fan of a lot of the artists from there. You know, like Mick Jenkins, Saba, No Name, all of them lot. Do you see? Do you think it's just they've had their time and we'll hear from them? You know, in a few like this year, and then in a few years when they drop an album, or do you think we need to look elsewhere? And because there's obviously like Lil Durk and there's Polo G and all that crop coming from Chicago, right? So I know that might not necessarily be our cup of tea, but like there is a crop of artists from Chicago.
No, it's not even that. No, I don't mind Lil Durk. That's you. Don't don't project your taste onto me, John. But no, I think I'm thinking about, because I think your question is a good question, but my answer would be like a whole episode, because the whole Chicago scene's interesting, right?
Yeah.
So wait, are you basically saying like are you saying like is the moment kind of done? Are we looking elsewhere for
it's
like
their moment.
Man, there's so much to that answer. But okay, so I'm gonna put a pin in that, because I honestly do feel like that answer could be quite long, but I will kind of give a few brief points. So I think the first one is the people who were kind of spearheading the Chicago scene, especially the new Chicago, quote unquote. So basically anyone who's not drill artists, right? So people like Chance the Rapper, No Name, Raven and I think she's kind of Chicago as well. Quote me on that, but I think she is. A lot of these people just don't seem, Saba as well. A lot of these people don't seem to want to be famous, and I think that's also a huge part in terms of widespread appeal. Obviously, No Name clearly does not want to be famous. I mean, no, Chance the Rapper obviously did, but his album didn't leave people satisfied. Saba is quite a private guy as well. Raven and still hasn't dropped an album. She's around for like damn near 6-7 years now. So I think but then it's like, okay, that could always just change. So I can't say it's done, but it won't be as like prominent as it was, saying like 2016 to 2018, because I feel like the big artists that were there, they're just either not dropping enough, or they're just too low key, and they're kind of going almost underground. And it hasn't been like a new crop that's come around yet. Even Mick Jenkins is he's pretty much underground artist at this point. So yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think there's definitely like an element of shunning the spotlight.
Yes,
for those
exactly.
guys. If they wanted to, they could. They could have been the next big
100%.
public thing. Not to say that they're not going to come out with great albums in future years. I mean, Mick Jenkins only released something a year ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, underground doesn't mean bad. It just means
no,
not mainstream. 100%. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, all of them have like massive connections in rap. Like, you kind of put all their like the people they've worked with together. Like, it's a crazy list we're talking about. You know what I mean? So it's not a thing of they don't have the connections. It's just don't seem to want to. But before we kind of like close out here, I want to talk about some of the songs from her album. Those the songs that were on our Spotlight series, right? So she had an album that she dropped a couple of years ago, A Tree Planted by Water, and a couple of the songs that we had there were Fragile and Feel the Need. So Fragile, she kind of talks about like inheriting some of these like not toxic traits, but just kind of like traits maybe like her female ancestors needed to kind of like survive, quote unquote. So kind of like building these walls up and feeling like you have to be like this strong woman to kind of get through life. And then she's kind of realized, okay, like I've inherited these things as well, and it's okay to be fragile, quote unquote. It's okay to kind of like not be strong all the time. Obviously, Feel the Need, she kind of talks about essentially black girl magic, something like you're her gift, and love is a gift, and you are love, and stuff like that. And I think what was quite interesting is that the album is quite a shift in terms of like the things she's discussed on the EPs. So songs like Now and Then, which was one of our songs, which is also our playlist. She kind of talks about like more like general love songs, right? Like I think one now and then she says something like what's it called? I want to hold you tightly like the neck of a third glass of wine. Like it's just stuff like that, very typical shit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
what did you kind of think of the songs that we had on our Spotlight series?
Yeah, they were good. I think I don't know whether you mentioned for people at home, like the album was 18 minutes long. Like this is
Oh yes, very short.
like we're obviously a huge fan, but like that is one gripe I do have about it. Like it was 18 minutes.
Yeah, of
5 minutes of it
Yeah,
were the interludes.
yeah.
So like your
It's essentially
debut studio
13
album,
minutes.
we've got 13 minutes of you singing. Would have liked a bit more. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the interludes made sense. Like they tied in, as you kind of said, like they set up the next songs, which they're obviously supposed to do. That's the point of them. So it's good they all kind of tied in. But yeah, I don't know. I was a fan. I really liked the song Hummingbird. I know we didn't put it on there, but shout out that song as well. But yeah,
the songs are good. The songs are
I
really
know
good. Yeah.
There were 4 songs, and we're like, we're gonna put 3 on our playlist. But yeah, no, Fragile I think was a particularly good one.
Yeah,
like you mentioned,
no, for sure.
100%.
I mean, I don't know about you, but she kind of gives me the vibes of like a Aretha Franklin type. Do you know what I mean? No, I'm not saying she's like that, but I'm saying like, yeah. Do you know what I mean? She kind of gives me that kind of vibe when she sings, isn't it? Like you can tell that she grew up with like a lot of like Motown, a lot of vinyls playing around like in her house, and like it kind of seems. I think the one thing about Eryn and Kane, well, she's been around for quite a while now, right? But for me, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because on one hand I'm thinking, okay, there's not many people in 2021 that kind of give you that kind of style and sound, and maybe that's why Prince was so interested in her. So I think, okay, if you really, I mean, she's a really good singer and she's probably quite cheap to feature, so like why aren't more people featuring with her? Do you know what I mean? That's one thing. Like another thing is like, I guess when you kind of sound so much like someone else, people just be like, oh, you're just like a quote unquote worse, for lack of a better word, version of someone else who does it better. So do you feel like it's a thing where, or do you feel like she should kind of just keep going down this route of like, I'm just gonna like wear my influence on my sleeve and just be the best I can at it? Or would you want to see her kind of come into her own and maybe incorporate some more modern sounds, or just more of herself?
I don't know. I kind of think of her in the same light that we did a spotlight on Baby Rose a few weeks ago, right? Yes. And Baby Rose has been on like a few projects here and there, like the Dreamville one. She was on Big Crit's album, and then she obviously released her album in 2019, right? Borderlands. Yeah. And that
no, to myself.
That's just my favorite song. And so yeah, I kind of see them as the same as like, they've got a kind of a unique style. Like Baby Rose's, it's more her voice as opposed to like the kind of like neo soul, but like more of an older soul star. That
I would say one difference is that Baby Rose, like the production that she sings on, is very more modern than Eryn and Kane. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like because obviously Baby Rose sounds like a Nina Simone kind of like, and what's it called, Offspring, but the beats definitely are like modern day. I think Eryn and Kane is like fully in the 80s. Do you know what I mean? And I think maybe that might hurt her appeal a little bit, but I mean, but it's still a great singer. Like I think that more people should definitely work for her, more people should definitely check her out. Like if you're a fan of that type of sound, you should definitely check her out.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I think she'll just continue going along the lines that she is, right? Like I don't really see. Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
I don't really see her like deviating at all from that. Like, there's an odd feature here and there. Like, Vic Mensa seemed to have been her biggest or like most well-known feature in a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Like, I
mean, obviously, Reality Check's probably her biggest one because she did the hook. But I know you mean. I mean, the last couple of years, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't believe people are still listening to Vic Mensa like that, man. Fucking hell. But whatever. Like, I can't believe that. I mean, that is so 2013, but whatever. whatever. I'm not judging.
But yeah, check out the 3 songs we have on our Spotlight Series playlist. something obviously we're doing as well is letting people know that if you've had any gripes with things we've said on the show, you know, if we've said things that are upsetting you, or just if we're not giving enough love to certain artists that you love, then let us know about that. Can be from any episode, right from episode 1, Rhapsody the Scapegoat, all the way to episode 25. Let us know, and in a few episodes time, maybe next month, we'll have an episode where we kind of bring these ideas up and kind of, you know, Vinyl Collective versus social media topics called out. We'll get that going.
Yeah, for sure. And also, yeah, don't forget to check out our Spotlight series playlist, where the 3 songs that we just discussed here will be on our playlist, as well as all the other 24 artist spotlights. Damn, 24. And all the other 24 spotlight artists that we've had on our Instagram, on our show. Oh yeah, don't forget to check us out on social media. Vinyl Collective Pod, most places except for Twitter, TVC Pod. Yeah, follow us, get involved. You know, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from, you know, for some of the fans. I don't know why, just fucking up today. That is what it is. But anyways, let's go and talk to Hannah. We'll be back in a sec, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the episode.
Cool. So we are back, and we have our special guest today on the episodes, HannahV. So really good to have you today. Hannah is a producer, pianist. She's toured with so many incredible artists, and obviously a jazz musician as well, currently residing in London. So yeah, great to have you today on the show.
Thanks for having me. That was a nice, lovely intro.
Try to get all the highlights in there.
I know, I love it.
Yeah. So I guess what the best place to kind of start off, right? Obviously the current like situation that's been going on. So I know like last summer you were like working at Abbey Road Studios for the first time for a couple of days, which must have been crazy. And then, and then obviously like as many artists do, you know, artists want like a Christmas album or they want to wrap up the year. So you're working on that for quite a bit, just kind of closing everyone off. And then obviously that was like 3 months ago now. So I guess a lot of people weren't expecting like a third lockdown, but here we are. So guess what is kind of in the current status for you right now in this current environment?
You know what, guys, it's crazy. And I almost feel guilty for saying it, but I've never been busier. It's, I think as producers anyways, we're so used to working remotely, sending beats around to the world, you know, zooming in with people, with studios. And I think especially like as soon as lockdown 1 hit, I kind of started making my plans. Do you know what I mean? And I started reaching out to all my people that I knew had home studios, and I started adapting. And what it meant was that as the year progressed, as the lockdown opened and closed and opened and closed, you just adapt to it, you know? I'm quite lucky that I work with a couple of artists on like longer projects, you know, so EPs, albums, all of that. So at the beginning of this year, I had to finish off half of a jazz album that I just wrapped for an amazing singer called Joe Harrop. And that was really interesting again, because it's a jazz album. So usually we just get the musicians together in a room and record. Because we couldn't, I'd kind of go from studio to studio, because you're still allowed to go to studios. You just have to, you know, be careful and socially distance. And so it took a bit longer that way, you know, and I really had to think it through, because it's like, it's jazz, you play it together, you know, like how do I recreate it in lockdown, you know? But again, the musicians I use are amazing, and human beings in general and creatives especially, we're just adaptable. You just do it, you just crack on with it, you know? And so I was working on that. I obviously, as you guys I'm sure know, I work with JP Cooper a lot, and we just constantly have a lot of stuff to do. I'm about to go into like a big project with him as well. He's going to start dropping stuff real soon. And then I've been trying to squeeze in like writing sessions and other productions in between. So for me, it has been like really, really busy. And the thing I'm personally finding hard is, look, we're all busy, right? And we treat ourselves to a nice restaurant, or to like a couple of days away. My parents live in Berlin, or to like a quick trip to Berlin to see my family, see my friends. And that's what I'm finding hard. It's like, there's no treat at the end of it, you know?
Yes.
And I love my job, and of course, but it's like, it feels a bit relentless. at
Yeah.
the moment. And so I just can't wait for like the borders to open up and for me to jump on a flight and go anywhere. I don't care, just for 1 or 2 days.
Just Skyscanner anywhere.
Yeah.
Anywhere,
I love
literally. Just to like
Mm.
get that, reset. I'm finding I don't have a reset, because even though I take, as we were just discussing, even though I take my weekends off, it's not the same as
Mm.
a change of scenery, being inspired, like being away from the laptop,
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
think
for sure.
I think a lot of people can relate to you in that, because I think a lot of people like work from home, like myself, like working on your laptops, and then it feels like the weekend just kind of goes and you're back exactly where you were, because your scene hasn't changed, and the laptop that you're working on is just like 2 feet away from you. Like it's like, okay, cool, like it just feel like the exact same thing. So and it isn't like a thing where you can, again, like you said, kind of like go out to like, I don't know, like Nando's or Wasabi or something and get something to eat. You just gotta just got home doing like your 10th version of cocktails at home or something like that. You know what I mean? So
I've done this walk around the neighborhood 50 times.
Yeah, exactly.
I swear, because I go around the marshes, I swear I know which ducks chase me. I know I've given like the geese names. I'm convinced this baby swan keeps following me, and you make up these stories, but again, it's like, and again, look, we're lucky. We all have roofs over our heads. I'm working, which is so amazing, where so many people, especially musicians, are not able to work. It's amazing that that I can still work. So I'm fully aware of that, but it'll be nice when everything opens up. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I guess going back to kind of like your beginnings and kind of like early life, you obviously mentioned that your parents are still living in Berlin, and you were born there to Indian parents, and then obviously you've been living in the UK. That's a big kind of mix of like languages and cultures and stuff. So how did kind of your early childhood's kind of like experiences of music and that, was it a big mix of things kind of growing up?
You know what? Not really. As in, my parents aren't really musical. So I didn't have that in my immediate family. But in Berlin, I went to an American school and an American church. Okay. So in the school, there's like a big music department. And so I was constantly playing piano, for choirs, for orchestras, for bands. That's how I got into jazz band. That's how I got into, that's how I got into jazz, and so I kind of had a gang of friends, and we'd have bands and we'd rehearse in school or at someone's place, and it's the same in church. Like I went to an American church, where there were a lot of classical singers. So it's quite different to like when people say they come from church, you immediately assume like a gospel upbringing,
Yeah.
My musical upbringing in church was actually like sight reading. So I'd come in and, the choir director would be like, "Oh, Hannah, the pianist isn't here. Can you quickly sight read?" And so it was very classical, but it's in many ways you learn the same things, which is like reacting on the spot, can't be nervous. You just go with the flow. You try and blag your way through it because you've literally just seen it and you have to play it in 10 minutes, and so I find like, there's so many people that have a similar background to me, but the great thing about being a musician when you're young is you get so much experience. Everything goes wrong on stage when you're young anyways, and you already learn you learn about the poker face. You learn, just got to get through it. You learn that it's not that deep because it's like, whatever, like you messed up a song, it's done, and so I found like when I decided to become a professional musician, when I moved to London and all of that, I'd already clocked up a lot of performing hours, and of course it's not like real performances, but you're still on stage, you're still, even if the audience is just your parents and their friends, it's still stage, it's still performing, and you're still kind of, you're building your chops, man,
Yeah.
I mean, even just to kind of mention that, because you said that your parents weren't musical or anything like that. So I guess, I mean, I come from quite traditional background myself, right? And obviously, certain like job roles or like career paths, it's like, what are you doing that for? So I guess, like, I mean, did they kind of take a liking to you do music, or were they kind of like, I was not kind of expecting this for you?
You know what? I'm so, my parents are the coolest. Of course, they're strict. They were strict Indian parents, but for some reason, they just really 100% supported the music. And I think it was because I was serious about it from young onwards, so they didn't have to tell me to practice or nothing like that. They didn't have to tell me, when I was staying late in school, it's because I was in the music building, because I was, practicing with my friends. And I think they just saw that I was happy, and my dad, typical Asian, would be there at every gig, you know, with his video camera front row, you know, it's really amazing to have had that support all through. So I never felt awkward about my choice of becoming a musician, you know, because I just felt like it wasn't anything that even needed to be said, you know, because it was so obvious. Like I was a musician. That's all I was doing. That was what I wanted to do. And I know that in a lot of traditional households, that's not the norm. And you know, like definitely when I think of like certain relatives, they were like, huh? Because I was smart as well, you know. So they're like, oh, you can have a real job, Hannah, you know. I know, but so of course it took the relatives a long time to come around. But as long as your immediate people support and love you, I wasn't that bothered, you know.
Yeah. Sure. And then obviously kind of from, you said picking up jazz at the American school and then kind of moving on, did you kind of move directly from school to go to the Royal College of Music then?
Royal Academy of Music, yeah.
Royal Academy,
yeah, so I graduated, then came straight over here, and that was like a bit of a shock as well, because I think it's the whole like big fish in a small pond kind of, you know, like it wasn't that I was in any way arrogant. I was just used to being like really good in Berlin, right? Because it's just like, it's my school. I was kind of the best pianist. Me and my homies were kind of, you know, like at the top of the music chain. And you're like, oh, cool. Like, this is what life is just going to be like. You know, I work hard, I practice hard. And then, you know, I came to the academy where I was literally surrounded by like people that have been like child prodigies from the age of 10. And, you know, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, the world is a big, big place. And it was very intimidating, but it's also amazing because, you know, like you have to just get over the fact that, you know, there are people there that have played a lot longer than you and are better than you straight, you know? And so after the initial, you know, shookness of like, oh my God, what's going on here? You just adapt, you know? But yeah, so that was like kind of quite an incredible experience as well. I was there for 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, were there anyone like during your time at the Royal Academy of Music that I guess people would know today, like any like alumni that, oh, okay, I can't believe that person's kind of like gone into the years?
I mean, not in my time, but Quabs, for example, went to the academy.
Oh, okay,
yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else in the pop world. There's a couple of like big film composers and stuff like that, but Quabs is the first person that came into mind. Jacob Collier, he went to the academy as well. So kind of, you know, like it's quite an elite school like that, you know. So again, it was incredible that I even got in and managed to go there. But with some of those institutions as well, it took me a while to get used to it because, you know, I don't come from England, so I wasn't used to like basically like
the game
people.
Yeah.
And especially, you know, when I was there, I think institutions are changing now and becoming more inclusive and all of that. But back in the day, like it wasn't quite that.
Yeah, I could imagine.
And so I'm there like with my little part-time job because I have to, you know, and everybody's like, what do you mean, Hannah? I was like, what do you mean? You don't have to, you know? So again, you learn that people come from different backgrounds. You learn that, you know, my life ain't everybody else's life. And, you know, I mean, all the things that we learn when we're young, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I guess, a question I had was, you know, kind of, did studying it for 4 years kind of give you a different approach then to kind of like going into the music industry, having studied it as like an academic subject, as opposed to, you know, different routes that a lot of people take into industry?
In all honesty, I found it as amazing as it was being around such amazing, incredible musicians. I found it quite hard because I couldn't find my place, you know, because again, I didn't know that I was going to end up in pop and production and working with singers and rappers and artists, you know? So, so I was kind of like, whoa, like, I don't know if I want to do like hardcore jazz all the time, you know?
Yeah. So, I just want to have a quick question about that actually, because one thing about like jazz musicians or people who play quite classical is that the genre, the practice itself is very precise, right? Like there's not really a lot of room for like a variation, maybe a bit in terms of like a jazz like performance and stuff like that, but otherwise from that it's like, you know, there's like it's very, very, very technical, the genres, right? So because of that, like people like yourself who kind of come from these like prestigious universities, they kind of look down on that, right? And there's I don't know if there's a guy called Cole Kushner. He does the Dissect podcast on Spotify, right? Yeah, and he studied classical music.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Studied classical music at university, right? And then he kind of realized, okay, there's actually a whole world of like hip hop that people don't really appreciate. And then he obviously went on to like dissect like To Pimp a Butterfly, which is very like jazz influence. So yeah, I kind of wonder, like, what was it kind of the same for you? Did you kind of grow up thinking, oh, like, because you said you were shocked, right? So were you kind of like, I can't, I'm a jazz musician. Like these pop guys are not even like doing the right chords or anything like that. Did you kind of feel like, yeah, I don't want to be part of that world?
You know what? I think, yes, there was an arrogance. But I think it's like that with everyone when you're young. You think you know it all. Like, who the hell am I? Like, the older you get, the more you know you don't know nothing, you know? And especially when it comes to music, you know nothing. None of us know anything. Music is always gonna, you know, win, you know? So, but I think when I was young, I kind of, you know, I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to have a classic jazz trio and I want to tour and I want to be like Herbie Hancock and and I wasn't interested in keyboards. I wasn't interested in any of that, you know? And then your eyes get opened because you get introduced, because people, and this is the beautiful thing about music, it is an oral tradition. People sit you down and play your record and you're like, hold on a minute, what? You know, like, and I slowly, for the first time, I heard kind of like jazz funk, Don Blackman, Patrice Rushen, all Donny Hathaway, you know, Leon Russell, all of these cats, and I'm just like, what is this? It's like vocals and all the technicalities and, you know, and funk and groove and everything, you know, and so slowly you mellow out, you know, and I mellowed out quite fast because, again, because I didn't come from like prestigious music family or anything like that, I'd always been interested in, you know, like I'd gone, you know, I was always interested in going clubbing. I was listening to MTV and radio and all of that. So I was always open-minded to pop music. And I actually found out at the academy, I was always looked down upon, you know, because they'd be like, oh, Hannah, what you listening to? And I'm like, I don't know, Biggie, Roots, whatever. And they'd be like, you know, and I'd be like, I don't know, I just like the, you know, and like, and I was like, hey guys, there's a lot of jazz elements on these records anyways, you know, but so I found I had to fight my corner quite hard. But I think when that happens, it kind of in a way gave me a backbone. Do you know what I mean? So like, I feel like all through my life, I've kind of swum against the stream anyways. So of course, you know, I'm the one that goes to, you know, the prestigious Royal Academy of Music and ends up kind of, you know, producing hip hop drill records or whatever, you know, and it feels natural, part of my journey. So I always go off on tangents, guys, sorry, but I'm trying to remember what your original question is. But I think every part of my journey, you know, good or bad, hard or easy, everything leads you to who you eventually become, you know? So I look back at it, I take the positives. Some of my best friends are still from that time. Some of the best musicians I know are still from that time that I still use. I take the hard bits of not feeling included, feeling like I was an outsider, not finding my place, as something that, in a way, I've now made a space for everybody else that feels like that, you know. And I see myself as like this collector of like a bunch of misfits, and we all make music together, and it's kind of a beautiful thing, you know. And that probably wouldn't have happened if I would have found it easy at the academy.
Yeah, and I guess like from that, you kind of obviously went off, and the kind of like early career was this touring, obviously as a keyboard pianist for a lot of big stars. So yeah, how did that kind of come about? How did your first like break come about for that?
So interestingly enough, it was again from one of my friends at the academy, and he was fixing a band for, do you guys remember singer Charlotte Church?
Yes.
Remember him? Yeah. So when she kind of gone pop, and again, I didn't know anything about keyboards, but he just called me up and he's like, Hannah, I need you to play like keyboards on this. And I was like, okay, but I don't know nothing about it. And he's like, doesn't matter, because the other keyboard player, there's 2 keyboard players on the gig, and the other keyboard player is a good friend of ours anyways. And so, you know, like I got into the band, the other keyboard player kind of programmed up his second rig of keyboards, showed me how to do it. And after like one day in the pop world, I was like, yo, this fits me. You know, when something just clicks. And I was just thinking, I love that we're spending a whole day on a song, you know, like in jazz, you practice, like if you practice, you do 20 songs a day, or you just go straight to the gig. And that's beautiful in itself. You know, the kind of improvisatory nature of that is a whole different style. But like, I liked the preciseness. I liked digging deep into the records. I liked comparing, you know, comparing the original records to my sounds and am I coming close or not, and so I very, very quickly kind of fell in love with pop, being a pop session musician, and I took to it really well as well, like for some reason programming keyboards came easy to me, not easy, but it came naturally. I wasn't freaked out by it, like I was just like, okay, let me just try it, whatever, just hit it until it works, like that's kind of my motto in life anyways. And I kind of slowly started making a name of myself for kind of, being, and because I came from a classical background and a jazz background, I had the technique to back it up. I was very quickly and very luckily, again, one of my first big gigs was Gnarls Barkley, and I had no keyboards, and I literally Googled Yamaha and called up the first number. And whoever answered the phone, thank God, was like a really nice person. And I was like, hi, you guys don't know me, but my name is Hannah and I'm on this gig and I have no keyboards. And they kind of took pity on me and just sent me a bunch of keyboards. And that was like, whatever, 13 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that. And I'm one of, I'm still endorsed by Yamaha, and they're like a very integral part of my team. And sometimes stuff just like that happens, but you know what, you just got to pick up the phone sometimes, isn't it?
That is such a shot in the dark.
It's like a movie scene, right? It's like, oh, hey, I ain't got a keyboard, I need to perform, let me just call Yamaha.
And again, it was like lucky that Gnarls Barkley were number one anyways, And so I was like, it's not like I'm doing quite a big gig, but I need your help, man, because like especially when you're starting out, I didn't have money to all of a sudden buy loads of keyboards, and so the one thing I've never been shy of is just like doing things like that, just kind of like, again, I feel like I feel in this business anyways, there's to every 99 no's there's one yes. That's cool, I know that anyways, so I'm basically, you get so used to the no's that you just keep it moving, So even when I made that phone call, I was like, what do I have to lose? They're either going to say yes or they're going to say no,
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, again, speaking of kind of making a big break in like session music as well, and then speaking of making calls, I'm guessing like also you worked with Rihanna for about a year or so, right?
Yeah.
So and obviously she seemed like a really good person to work with. She kind of flew your family out, your sister out, and stuff like that. So I guess you just had to ask her, and she was going to do it, right? Because it just works out that way.
Like this whole game and life in general is about genuine relationships. You know what I mean? And even the way I got the re-gig was crazy, because her musical director had seen me on stage with someone else 4 years before that, and just like, and then when the position became available in Ree's band, for some reason I popped into his head, and he's like, it's a bit random because it's usually always an all-American band, but he's like, there's this girl that I think could be really good, and she's from the UK, but let's try her, and so you just never know when and where you're going to make an impact, so I kind of always believe you just have to, it's not live your life like, it's not about like always being like perfect, it's not about that, but it's like just being genuine, because you just never know what's going to happen off the back of something,
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess just to kind of ask a bit more on the Rihanna topic, like obviously because you were with her for a year, I guess you were quite like close to her in a sense. So like, what was like your personal relationship with Rihanna like? And more so on that as well, like what was kind of like her work routine like? Because obviously this is God. Like, this is obviously Rihanna back in her heyday. So it would be good to kind of get inside that.
People have no idea, and maybe it's deliberate, people have no idea how hard Rhi works. People have no idea. I've never seen anything like it to this day, and I've worked with, a lot of stars. So our touring schedule, we'd probably do like 3-4 shows a week. So we were doing like world tours. So we'd be in tour buses, because we have to travel from city to city or venue to venue or country to country between shows. Rhi didn't mime, so it's like a 2.5 hour show live with, I think, 7 costume changes. Full choreography, all of that, flying up and down, like proper, big show stuff. After the gigs, we'd always hit a club, but it was a club appearance. So again, people are like, oh, Rhi's partying. It's like, it was part of a job, So go to a club, couple of hours, come back. Then there was a studio bus on the road with us. So come back about 2 or 3 or whatever, and Rhi would go straight and hit the studio. So her engineer would be there. A whole bus that was a studio, I think it was Pharrell's studio bus or whatever. But she cut vocals, until 5, 6 in the morning. And then her meet and greet with the fans would probably start. She'd probably have to go into glam at about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Like, and on days off, she'd take a jet, fly to LA and shoot music videos. I mean, it was insane. Like, you know, I remember saying that she only has like 1 day off a year or 2 days off a year. Like, real hard worker. And I've got so much respect for that, because when you see that, you're just like, every single thing you get, you deserve, babes. Every single thing. Because that's a sacrifice. That is a sacrifice. Doing that day in, day out, you know, and being one of the most famous women in the world, and all that brings, the craziness, the paparazzi, the security, like the mental scenes that you see when you're close to it, you know, it's a lot. And she's incredible. And for me, again, and I think that's because of my, you know, ethnicity, like it's always really important for me how people treat my family, you know. If you treat the people I love good, you're good, you know. And like I think when we were in Berlin, we went straight, my parents came down for a sound check and we went straight to them. It was just like, and that moment I was like, you're down for life, man, you know. Like it's a little gesture like that, but it means a lot, because we all know people that don't do that, you know.
For sure.
So like I've just got nothing. I've only got love and respect for that woman. And I think we don't hear about this side a lot, you know. And then again, maybe she doesn't want to, maybe that's on purpose, but yeah, man, that's a hard working woman.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, I mean, any word on the next album, you know, you said, yes, come on, any insights? I've got to ask.
I got nothing. I'm as excited as the rest of the world.
I mean, I guess we could kind of like pivot to another kind of like great person you work with. So I know you don't know me and John very well, but one of John's favorite singers of all time is Donny Hathaway. And also you worked with his daughter Lala Hathaway, who's obviously a massive artist in her own right. She's kind of worked for like Anderson .Paak, Kirk Franklin, Terrace Martin, Charlie Brown, like Charlie Wilson, sorry. So I guess I think you performed in Santorini with her, was that correct?
No, so Layla and me, and again, it's what I said before, everything happens because of something else, right? So the bass player in Rihanna's band was Layla Hathaway's MD, you know? And so when Layla came to do the European tour, I got booked on it. And then the next time she came to Europe, I MD'd it. And then when I went to LA, we hit the studio, you know? And so it's like relationships just grow like that, you know? And I mean, she's incredible. She sounds like her dad, you know? And there's like moments, because, you know, because like you said, like, of course, Layla is a very different artist to like a Rihanna or a Jessie J, you know, and we do very different stages, you know? But I will still count those moments as one of my, as much of a highlight as playing Wembley Stadium, you know? And there's like certain moments that really stick in my mind. There's, apparently she's quite picky what pianist she plays a song for you with, you know? I didn't know that. So I learned it and she's like, yeah, cool, we'll do it in the show. And Eric later, her MD, he came up to me, he's like, you know, she don't do that with everyone. I was like, oh, okay, let me not mess it up. But there's one time in soundcheck, because she's a great player as well. And she was playing a song for you, playing it. And I was kind of leaning over, so it's like, I usually go to this chord there. And she just turned around to me and said, well, he did this. And I was like, all right.
Can't say anything to that, can you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He did. This is what he did, though. I was like, yeah, well, whatever Donny says and whatever Donny did, you know, like little things. We'd be in a hotel and Donny Hathaway would come on radio and she'd be like, hi, Dad. And you're like, oh, that's right. This is Donny Hathaway's daughter. What's actually going on? You know, like you have all these moments of realization. Because when you travel with someone, you forget about the legacy in a way, because you're just cool and you're just on the road and you're trying to find food and, you know, all of that normal stuff, you know. So it's incredible kind of having worked with Layla and also like the fact that I will keep working with her, you know. It's just so cool.
And I guess comparing that to Rihanna and a lot of other of your kind of touring experiences, what kind of differences are there, or how does it differ working with artists from different genres? Is it more challenging with certain, I don't know, with pop compared to, you know, the drill song you did recently or hip hop?
I mean, playing for Layla, for me personally, she's played with the best keyboard players in the world. Like Layla literally has like videos of her with Herbie and Chick Corea. And that one time I played with Prince, and like she's played with everyone. So me as a musician, when I got the gig, I like canceled everything for like a month, and I was like, I'm just practicing, because it's just like, and it was for me personally, because of course Layla doesn't, like nobody's watching it like that. But for me personally, I was like, I need to be able to hold my own, that was really important for me, and that's quite an interesting thing, because I haven't had a challenge like that in the pop world in many ways, because like as involved as it is in programming, and there's might be certain technical tricky bits, I'm not doing gigs that Herbie did.
Yeah. Call up Yamaha and get a few more extra keyboards. Gonna need these in.
It's not that. It's a muso gig, with musos on stage and musos in the audience, and so it just makes you approach it slightly differently, and you just like, I just wanted to kill it, and I hope I did all right. I did all right.
No, your performance was amazing. But yeah, I guess you speak so positively about like the experiences before, but then it's not all sunshine and roses, because at some point you kind of decided, I'm not gonna do this anymore. And I guess to a lot of people, especially when you have kind of like quote unquote made it in some people's eyes, like you're keyboarding for some of the biggest artists the world has ever seen, and now you're just deciding, no, fuck that, I'm just gonna do my own thing. Like, how hard was it making that decision, and why make that decision?
It was the craziest decision of my life. It was the scariest decision of my life. It was the maddest decision of my life. And it was the best decision of my life. It's so crazy how these things work, man. Because exactly like you said, I was like at the height of my career, right? Like literally at this point, I'd done Wembley Stadium 3 times, the O2 like 20 times, done Staples Center, I'd done Madison Square. I'd done everything, every stage, more or less every stage I wanted to do in the world. I was, working with, pop artists so we traveled like 5-star, nice hotels, nice food, nice swag, nice this, nice that. It was a good life. But something in my belly, in my last year of working with Jessie J, I was with Jessie then, something in my belly just said, it's like, sometimes when you see your future and you're like, is the rest of my life going to be this with the pop star changing up front, And I was thinking, listen, I love my life. I love everything, but I started out as a jazz musician. So as much as the big stages are amazing, that never was my dream, And I want to create, I want to be part of, I want to be on the other side, And I think especially like, you're working with Rihanna, you're getting stems from Kanye, from Hit Boy, because, you actually get the parts to learn and to program off, And I'm getting all these productions, same with Jessie J, I'm getting all these amazing producers, I'm learning their parts, and I'm just thinking, something in my stomach was just like, I don't know, man, I don't know. And I think I didn't know I was going to become a full-time producer, nothing like that. All I knew was that I wanted to change, And I was just sitting there and I was thinking, how do I even do this? How do I change my career when I'm so established as this, And for a year, I prayed on it. I just put it out in the universe. I was just like literally, I was like, God, show me a way out of this, because I don't know how to do this, because I'm not 19 anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you can't just change careers halfway through, And then very, very, very unexpectedly, I got signed. I got a record deal from Sony as an artist producer, completely out of the blue. So I was always like producing on the side. I was always putting out little tracks, whatever. It got to a person who sent it to another person who took it to the label, and who was like, you know what? We'll give you a little 2-single deal, And that was enough of an incentive and enough of a, small advance, but still an advance for me to say, you know what? I'm quitting. And, I called up Jessie first because I wanted her to be the first one to know. And I said, listen, just to let you know, like, this is going to be my last tour. And she was super understanding. And then I told the rest of the people too. But on my last arena tour with Jessie, I hadn't told anyone yet. And it was a UK arena tour. And so I knew this was probably the last time I was ever going to walk on these stages, And it was like, it was bittersweet, and it was beautiful, and it was sad, and it was everything, So I really savored every one of those dates, every one of those stages, all the catering. I was just like, I'm eating everything because, you know, who knows when I'm going to get free food again, you know, like, but, you know, like, because I was very aware of the perks that come with the job that weren't going to come with my production life. I knew it, you know, it's a very different life. And then like my last gig with Jessie was actually at the O2, was Jingle Bell Ball. And that was it. And all of a sudden I wasn't a session musician anymore. And it was a trip. It was mad. The first 6 months were horrible because I kind of kept seeing everybody else, or the band or other bands, like being on tour, and I'd be like, oh my God, that's my favorite hotel in Singapore. Oh my God, they're here. Oh my, you know, like, and packing my bags away, my suitcases away, because I'd been on the road for 8 years at this point, you know, like it was traumatic. I know it sounds silly, but it was like sleeping in my own bed for a week, being around my family again, you know, and not being able to run away from all the problems, not being able to be like, oh, don't worry, you know, like I'll deal with it when I come back, and you never come back because, you know, it took me a long time to adjust. And it also took me a long time to adjust from being a session musician, which means playing the part, you know, being guided by my musical director, and being a role of a, you know, like a side musician, you know, which I loved, to all of a sudden being the artist. I was like, what does that even mean? What do I even want to say? What kind of music do I want to make? I don't know, you know, like going into these label meetings, being like, what's even going on, you know? It took me a second for sure, but you adjust, like I was saying earlier, we adjust to everything. And all of a sudden, like you find your voice, and you find like, oh my God, my job is like literally to do what's in my head. Like, this is incredible. And I started becoming more and more comfortable in the role. And now this is like my 6th year as a producer. It's like, I love my job. It's a complete trip for me, being on the other side, going to gigs when we were allowed to go to gigs, but going to gigs and seeing people play songs I've produced when I used to be the person on stage. You know, it's come full circle. I book the musicians on my records that are like my favorite musicians anyway. So I get to immortalize my friends as well. You know, I get to be there at the beginning of the creation of a song. There's something so special about that. And I still get to play on the records, you know? So yeah, I miss the stage. It's weird for me not performing anymore, because I don't perform at all anymore, you know? But I always think, to every yes, there's no's. You got to say no to a lot of things. That's just the way life works, you know? And so I said yes to production, which meant I had to say no to performing. And that's something that, even though occasionally it upsets me because that was my life, I spent my life on stage, it was the right decision, you know? And I can live with that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah,
guys,
I guess
I go on forever.
no, that was really good. And I guess, you know, moving towards, just a quick question, did you have quite a period where you were just like, you know, I'm going to try and reset my mind before you started going into the studio again, once you'd got kind of back home?
No, because I was signed and I had to find singles to
release.
Like,
yeah, they were knocking on the door, weren't they?
But again, like, and I feel like a lot of my life has been like this. I just get thrown into situations, and you just say yes, and you figure it out as you're falling, you know?
Yeah, like you've unpacked, get in the studio. Yeah.
You know, and so, but again, like, a reoccurring theme in my life has been good people around me, you know? So the first year, because even though I knew how to produce, but I didn't know how to produce professionally. I didn't know what deliverables were. I didn't know what a campaign, what was part of a campaign. I didn't know, you know, but one of my best friends is an amazing producer called Coors, and he basically co-produced with me for the first year and took me under the wing. And he was like Professor Green's main producer, has plaques on plaques on plaques and all of that. Like that, the way I played piano, that's how he produced, you know, that was his thing, you know? Right. So I watched him, I learned from him. He helped me kind of like figure out what kind of sound do you want to go with and all of that. And after years, I was like, yo, I can do this now by myself, you know? And again, that is a beautiful thing, that from another human being, you get passed down those skills, you know? And so wherever I go, I try and do the same, man, you know, pass down that knowledge.
I actually wanted to touch on that a little bit since you just mentioned it. So like, one thing, I don't know if you're a big fan of FK Twigs, like the British singer, right? So yeah, so one thing about FK Twigs is she also produces a lot of her own songs, right? And on her most recent album, I think she has almost full production credits on her work, and that was quite surprising, because I think a lot of the time, especially in production, right? Because also we have like, again, we have a lot of female like session players, we have a lot of female musicians, but when it comes to production, it is heavily male dominated, right? And you said something that kind of stuck out to me, which was that she said that sometimes when it comes to how, I guess, men and women are kind of perceived when they're producers, is completely different. So she gave an example of like, if you make a mistake as a man and you just say, oh, I'm tired, and no one will ever kind of question that. But if a woman makes like a mistake, when it's like, oh, do you need help or something? Like, oh, do you know what I mean? Like, it's almost as if you can't do it yourself. So, and you said something really like, that kind of stuck out to me. It's like, being female is not my brand. Does that kind of tie into kind of some of the maybe issues you've had during like producing as a woman? Because you can touch on.
And again, I'm used to being underjudged. I don't think that's a word, but I'm used to that. Because even as a musician, people be like, I'm sure she can't play, you know? And then, and I've had that all my life, you know? So in a way, I've developed quite a thick skin to it. I'm just like, oh, I don't care. Like, of course, in the producer scene, it's crazy. It's 2% of pop records are produced by females. The numbers are atrocious, you know? It's tough. I try. My motto has always been, and I got it from my dad, man. Imagine like an Indian man growing up in Germany, like, or moving to Germany with his wife. You know, like, it's not easy. And he's always kind of had a very like Ray Charles mentality, blind to the BS, you know? And for me, I'm kind of like, I always see my job, it's bigger than me, you know, like it's bigger than me, like it's a calling, and therefore, like, no matter what people throw at me, man, I don't care, I don't give a shit, like, you know, do what you want. I'm gonna keep my head down and keep marching and keep fighting the good fight and keep making banging music and keep getting better, you know? So that's always been my motto. Of course, I'm so aware of the doors that remain closed and probably will never open. I'm so aware of the looks, the glances, the Hannah, but you know, I'm sure you sing. I don't sing. I'm a vocal producer and a producer. Oh no, but you're just shy. It's like, you know, like happens to me all still to this day when I'm just like, I'm like, people listen with their eyes, and I'm bored of it, you know. And I think, and then with the article I wrote, that was basically what I was saying. I'm bored. I'm not going to keep talking about, you know, I'm not going to keep justifying, you know, ultimately listen to my music. Do you like it or not? And that's where we go from, you know? And I found people that take me as a producer and nothing else, you know? And I think that's for all of us, is so integral. As you find your team, you find your people. So for example, JP and his team, his manager, like, they've never, like, there's just never been even a discussion about me being female, you know? And so as his star has risen, my star rises because I produce with him so much, you know? And you know, and therefore loads of doors are being opened for me. And I've got a couple of people like that in the game and on the scene, artists that just like, they just don't care. They don't even see it. It's just nothing. It's like, oh, Hannah, dope producer, let's go, you know? And so you align yourself with similar energies, man. And I've learned we all got to stop knocking on those doors that ain't going to let us in anyways. You know, it's frustrating, but how long are you going to, you know, like knock on certain doors, you know, like the unfortunate fact is that the music industry is sexist and racist. It is what it is, and classist. It is what it is, you know? All I can do is try and make a difference, show that there's another way, and everybody else that feels left out, come to me. We'll hang out, you know?
Yeah. I guess you just mentioned kind of JP Cooper, and I guess moving on to the work you did with him, you kind of produced two songs from his 2017 album. One of them obviously being JP and Stormzy. What was that kind of like, you know, when you kind of think about going into the studio with two different people from, you know, pretty different genres? What is it more about, kind of establishing a kind of like rapport and kind of like a relationship with them, as opposed to like the technicality of the producing?
I take every session. No session is the same as another, right? So you have to be, as a producer, I think in general, you have to just be really open-minded and see what energies people come with, you know? The Stormzy JP session was crazy because like they'd been wanting to work together for ages. And as a joke, I always said to JP, oh, come to my studio. My studio's in Hoxton, you know? And one day JP is like, yeah, Stormzy's gonna come. It's like, what? Okay. And it was the first time that they probably met. So I kind of, in a way, for the first hour, as they were talking, you know, in a way, my studio is small, but I kind of just turned to the piano, to the keyboard, and just played in the background, because I was like, I need to give you guys space to connect as artists that want to collaborate on something, you know? And again, I feel like this is something I've learned being a musician, being around characters, being around artists anyways, you know, you can sense the mood in the room, you know, and you can sense when you need to just slightly, you know, like, you guys do your thing. And so they just caught up about what they were doing, this and that. And then when it came time to kind of work on something, it was pretty crazy. I kind of had some piano ideas, and I played Storms with them, and he was like, the first one I played, he's like, that's cool. And I was like, all right, let's do that, you know? And so I just played down that piano part, kind of looped it. Stormzy starts writing, JP starts writing. I start making a tiny bit of a beat, enough for them to vocal. That whole session was, Stormzy left after 3 hours, JP left after 4 hours, and those are the vocals we used on the final record. The whole song was written then. You know, it was incredible. It was incredible. And it just goes to show, like, I mean, both Stormzy and JP are gifted with their pens.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of comment on that, because for the people who are listening, this was around 2017, right? So Stormzy kind of just came off his debut album, Gang Signs and Prayer, and at the time, like, even though now he's like a global superstar, right? Like, at the time he was like the nation's sweetheart. He hadn't quite got to that point yet. Yeah. So, and also you kind of working directly with him during this year, like, did you kind of see the trajectory, like, at that time with Stormzy? Did you kind of know, okay, this is where he's gonna go? Like, did you kind of get that energy when he was like, writing the room?
Absolutely, man. You know when somebody's a star.
Yeah.
You know, because it's the fact that they don't make a big deal out of stuff. It's how relaxed they are. It's how lovely they are. It's like nothing to prove, you know. And you're like, you're the real deal, because you ain't trying to like show off or nothing. You're here for the music and nothing else, you know. And immediately you get a sense of like, this is bigger than he gets it. It's bigger than him, you know. So yeah, you just felt it. You just felt it, you know.
Yeah.
And I knew it was a special track. As we were sitting there, I was just like, and you know, like, again, for me, like, personally, coming from, you know, a Christian family, like, my first big track being a song called Mama's Prayers, like, I literally had to like print out the lyrics, send it to my grandma, you know, like, and these are like really cool like side effects of these things that happen, where, you know, like, my extended family don't listen to my music, but these are moments where they're like, oh, that's a really nice song, and it makes me really proud to be able to like even get them into it as well, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I guess like moving from there onto your EP, No Limit. So it's true that you were kind of working on that for about 2 years. Is that right? Before,
yeah, man, it was a tricky one.
Yeah.
Like, I think because again, it's because I produce so much for other people, you know, and like, I'd really say like 90% of my work is writing, producing for artists, but there's always something in me which is like, it's just nice to have your own name on something once in a while, occasionally, you know. But I think when you're working on your own material, you just get lost in it a bit, in terms of like, emotionally, it's an emotional roller coaster. When you're on the outside, it's really easy to be like, this is what we need to do, bam, 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 I need you to sing this, I need you to do this, the record is done. When you're on the inside, you're just a hot mess, you know. You're like, is this good enough? Does this represent me? What am I trying to say? Blah, 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 blah. And you just run around in circles a bit, you know. And it's tricky, man. It's tricky, but I was so happy that with the end product, and I got some great artists on there, you know, Shiesty, Misha B, Pepper, Cherry V, and it ended up just being an EP with my friends, you know, people I was working with anyways on their projects, and then they jumped on my project, and then and it became like this little like family again, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's second to get that out there.
I mean, you mentioned, I think one thing you said, I think it was in a different interview, you said like your job as a producer is to get truth in the room. And I thought that was a really interesting comment to make, because I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, I don't know how much of rap you listen to, but I guess there's not a lot of truth in some of those rhymes a lot of the time. So it's like, when you say that.
No, but you know what? It still is truth, because like, if right then and there, you're like, I feel crap, I want to make myself feel good. Let's pretend. It's truth as well. Do you know what I mean? Party tracks are truth. Escapism is truth. It's all truth, you know? But it can't be because so-and-so did a song and I think that would hit. It can't be that. It cannot be that, you know? But if you want to do a party and bullshit track because, you know, right then and there, you're like, everything's long, I'm in a bad mood, I need to do something that puts me in a good mood. I find that's truth as well. So, you know, so it doesn't always mean that it needs to be a ballad. It can be like gully as hell, you know.
It's more about
But,
integrity then.
yeah, it needs to come from from a real space. You know, I think that's what I mean with truth. You know, like, and we need to be on a level, you know, because like, again, it's like, I just laugh about some of the rap sessions I have, you know, and, you know, obviously people spit in all kinds of like, and I just don't mind. I don't care, you know, like there's something about like, I don't find it awkward or anything like that, you know, because it's just like, music is music, man. And the studio is a safe space, you know?
Okay.
And if you're feeling like that, let's go, you know, and it's all good. Of course, you know, it had, you know, like, you have to be respectful and all of that. But, you know, certain times, certain men rap about certain things. And it's like, and it's just funny having, as a female producer, like being like, yeah, cool. Can we track that again? Can I hear that word? You know, and like, I laugh to myself a lot of times, you know, and you're just like, this is so hilarious, but it's music and we need to do what we need to do. And actually I find it funny and I don't find it awkward at all. I just don't care, man, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask, one thing I found interesting about the No Limit EP was, you know, there seems like there's a lot of different kind of soundscapes in there. I mean, for an EP of 7 tracks, am I correct?
Five.
Yeah.
About 17 minutes, something like
that. Yeah.
Really
you obviously
short.
like managed to get a lot of different sounds in there. Was that something you worked on it for 2 years? Was that something pretty intentional that you wanted to draw on a lot of different kind of experiences you'd had?
Kind of, but I think it also came down to the artist I was working with. You know?
Right.
Because I think the reason it took as long as it took is because I had so many, I just kept going from song to song to song to song to song. The second I actually decided on the songs, then it doesn't take me long to finish songs, you know? And so I think you hear like all my different influences, but for example, with the Misha B song, it's like quite jazzy horns, and I sent her a beat because I had a really specific like beat in mind, you know, like I wanted to do something outcasty. And so I did that. I sent that to Misha, and like literally 20 minutes later, she'd written the song and sent me a voicemail back, you know, and I was like, okay, let's go studio and, you know, do that. With Shiesty again, she wanted to do, like, we were working on hard material anyways. And so we're just working on something a bit old school, you know, and then I was like, you know what, Shy, if you're not going to use that, I'm going to use that, you know? Same, me and Pepper, we work all the time, you know, so that was just like one of the songs we were working on. So it all came about very naturally. So I guess when those songs were created, I didn't know they were going to go on the EP. We were just writing and we're just having fun and we're just messing about, you know? And I then chose the songs and, you know, thought they fit, you know, even though, because I feel they showed different sides of me. But there's a strong positive sentiment throughout them all, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of follows on straight to what I was going to ask next. So like, what is next for Hannah? Is it a No Limit LP, or like, yeah, what's down the pipeline for you? Like any like collaborations or teasers like you can give us? I
mean, look, I'm constantly working on so many different tracks, and the great thing is like, you know, because I produce, I go on a lot of writing trips as well, you know, so I produce a lot in Berlin. I do a lot of stuff in the States. I've started to work in Canada as well. So it's like, it's an interesting thing. The way like our world works is like you do a track and then it probably comes out a year or two later, you know, like that's kind of how long it takes for, you know, things to kind of get ready, get to the stage. So, so it's just always quite interesting because it's almost like you don't quite know what's coming out yet, you know, like I don't even know myself because I'm just like, because you do so many sessions, you're just like, what did I do again? And then all of a sudden somebody hits you up and it's like, okay, cool, I'm putting this on that album, you know? I mean, this year I've got a lot of releases with my main artists. I've got some, there's a lot of stuff coming out.
You heard it here first on
the
Collective.
But in terms of like the HannahV project, I'm not sure if I'm going to do anything this year because again, it's, I need to carve out time for that. You know, and I think musically things go in phases anyways, you know, and I'm really enjoying right now producing for people and helping people find their sound or being part of their sound. You know, I love it. I feel as much ownership on that as I do on my own records, you know, and I'm riding that wave at the moment, you know?
Yeah.
And the second some space comes, or I'm inspired to do, I'm working on like a piano album, I'm working on like a beats driven album. Like there's things I'm working on that are just for me and the HannahV project. But there's just a lot of other stuff I have to finish, a lot of tracks to be done.
Yeah. And I guess in all of that, all the kind of, the Monday to Friday work that you're doing, like what's your kind of take on kind of like the current UK music scene? Like who are you listening to? What kind of genres do you just kind of sit back and relax and kind of enjoy on the weekends?
You know what? So this is really bad. But when I'm really busy, I don't listen to a lot of other music because on average, I'm working on 10 tracks, of different artists, different genres, different this, different that. And so my head is so full of music that I find I have to, like on weekends and stuff like that, either listen to old stuff, Aretha, Johnny, whatever, like things almost like to cleanse the palate, But I mean, there's incredible artists in the UK. I really want to get in. There's a drill artist called Teasy. I think she's incredible. I want to get in with her. The artist I work with here, anyways, Lavish K's. It'd be interesting to see what he's doing. There's another amazing young rapper called Nino's coming up. I'm doing some bits with him as well. Be interesting to see what he does. I mean, yeah, I'm quite open-minded. I listen to so many different kind of genres, I listen to, a lot of stuff in the States as well, global stuff. So I can't like, I wish I had like a list of like this is who I'm checking out, but it's
a very
right
open-ended question.
Right now, I don't quite have that, because I'm just like digging whoever I'm digging with. And I think it's a similar thing when people ask me, who do you want to work with? Like, I kind of have a list, but also I don't, because I know life doesn't work like that, and you just, all of a sudden you're in a room with someone who you didn't think, like the Lavish K record happened because of Stormzy, because Stormzy's homie was in the studio with us. He's ended up A&Ring for Murky and all of that. He found Lavish. He brought Lavish to me. Bam. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. So you're like, I don't even know who I'm going to be producing for in a couple of weeks. Who knows? What phone call I wake up to tomorrow. So I kind of like, I love that fact about just being really open-minded. We all have our heroes. We all have people we want to work with, of course. But for me, the excitement is in the unknown. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, that's a kind of a good way to ride it out, don't you think, John?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess coming at the end of this like interview, was there anyone you want to like thank or like kind of shout out?
You know what? Yeah, let me shout out. I've been thinking about this this year. I've been thinking about the inner circle in terms of music, the people you go back to again and again and again and again, your A-team, and how important that is, how important it is to have your team, and so for me, my team is like my musicians, my mix engineer, and so I want to shout out my A-team. So Nikki Brown, Troy Miller, Deshaun Kors, my mix engineer. Just none of us do this alone. And my team is they're so strong and they're so talented, and they're an extension of my sound. And I feel so privileged to be working with, like, honestly, such amazing other talent apart from the artists. Like my team is strong, man, and that's like, it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, I guess we're gonna quickly shout out ours as well while we're here. But yeah, every week we do kind of a spotlight series where we pick a new artist in the UK or in the US. We write a little bio about them, kind of suggest 3 songs. So as we kind of mentioned just before you came on, you can check out that artist this week and see our 3 songs in there. Our Now and Then playlist. Some people say it's their favorite playlist, but we'll leave it to them to say. Each week we pick like a throwback song, and then we pick a new song. So anything from the last kind of 2 years. I'll start us off so you guys don't feel you've got a couple minutes to think. You've got a couple minutes to pick from those 3.
I've got my little list out.
Yeah, cool. All right, new song for me. Actually, I'm gonna get old first. I'm going to go with Red and Gold by MF Doom.
Okay.
I've been listening to I think I treated myself the other day to his extended edition with all the instrumentals of it, of Operation Doomsday, which is incredible. Yeah, so Red and Gold. My new song, I think I'm going to go with Hiatus Coyote's new song, which is called Get Sun. Oh, I love it. Yeah. I had no idea. Tope tweeted about it and I was like, you know what, 6 years. Been gone for 6 years, haven't they? So yeah, great return to form. But yeah, Get Sun, song by Hiatus Coyote.
Cool. Nice. I'll slap on my two then. So my now song is a singer from West London, actually, Hope Tada, called Love Stained. Really good song. Yeah, not really much to say. Probably have as an artist spotlight sometime down the road. My then song, just a little bit of context, Hannah. So I've been challenging myself to listen to a new album every single day.
Every single day.
Every single day.
Wow.
So
and how's your brain doing?
It's just about there. It's just about there. So no, my then song is gonna be "Sticky" by Raven Lene. So yeah, I'll just add that. So it's just a lot of like throwbacks in my head. So yeah, and then last but not least, Hannah, do you have to come?
Okay, so I can decide between. I have two songs from my old school ones. So it's either Tribe Called Quest, the lower Bugging Out.
Nice.
Tope loves that. Yeah.
Either that or Buster, Give Me Some More.
We're gonna take Tribe on that one.
Because I was thinking of videos as well, you know, like, and I was thinking of like old school, but yeah, Tribe, obviously, you know, always. And then new, again, I have had a couple that I couldn't choose from. So I've been messing with Giveon hard, you know, so like I Want You. But one of my favorite artists of the last couple of years is the Canadian artist called Mustafa, and his record Stay Alive, that video and that song blow my mind. Every time I've listened to it hundreds, thousands of times, it blows my mind, you know. But the visual is very important for it as well, you know. Them two together, I have to work with him.
That's one. Listening now, that's one of the list.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. We've got a good eclectic range again as usual, from MF Doom to Mustafa. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I think that kind of rounds us out this week. Thank you again so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Yeah. Where can people follow you? Find your music, your socials?
So just Insta is kind of my main social. So find me on there on HannahV Official.
Oh, I mean, I'm just gonna add it here as well. She also has like a couple of videos on like YouTube where she literally kind of goes from like making the beat and stuff like that, which I think is really interesting. I know a couple of producers listen to us, so yeah, no, she's really in the streets, guys.
I'm really geeky, you guys. So yeah, like I love geeking out about. I love going into detail of production. I love it.
Yeah, and yeah, obviously follow us on Vinyl Collective Pod on Insta, TVC Pod on Twitter, as John mentioned, Now and Then playlist on Spotify, the Vinyl Collective. I think if you want to email us, you want to be like, Hannah, we did bring Hannah on again, vinylcollectivepod@gmail.com.
If you want to leave us a review on Apple Music, we've got a funny review on there recently which said great album reviews but very opinionated. It's like that is the crux of a podcast.
I mean, we addressed on the previous episode, like whatever, but I think that kind of wraps up for us. But again, Hannah, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, you guys.
No worries, guys.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.